downside, absolutely. Does that mean that my cable bill is going to go down? Does that mean that my light bill is going to go down? Does that mean that if my property taxes go up, I can give them a call and say, listen, I didn't get a raise for 4 years. I don't think that you should raise my property taxes, my cable bill, my everything that I enjoy, that my kids enjoy. You know, things are going to go up. Things are going to go up. Teachers need fair wages. We need to protect rights in this district, not in this district, but just all over the country in general. But you look and see what's going on. Where a lot of states are trying to make these right to work states, and I'm not I don't support that at all. Unions serve a purpose; they protect people's rights. The unions and the administration, they also need to work together as a whole. I believe that they should have more input on what's being taught inside the schools. They should have more say over the curriculum, and not just say, you know what, here's what we're going to be teaching. Learn and study it, teach it, without giving them the proper support, without giving them the proper professional development, which is very important. You know, just tell them, you know, this is what the state says you have to do. You're going to do it. We don't care if you know how or not. Just teach it. And that's the way to run a school district. The teachers should have more input in what goes on in the district.
Thank you.
As many of the candidates mentioned, unions are very important. Obviously, the teachers are an integral part of our children's education, and they have to be protected, and they need to have the backing of a union to give them all they need to give our children the best education. That being said, as a board member, my top priority is the children, because the ends to the means is to have a better teacher, but to have a better education for the children. So the children are the number one priority. Obviously, if you have good teachers, the kids are going to do better. Being that that's the case, what has to happen is the union system has to be a little bit reformed to work on a performance-based way of, right now, the governor has just recently unveiled a program to, with 4 different levels, highly effective, partially effective, and ineffective. Those are the levels of the teachers. And obviously, it's a reward system. If a teacher is highly effective or effective, we want that teacher to stay. If a teacher is partially effective or ineffective, we don't want that teacher because that doesn't benefit our children. We want the best for our children. Yes, we want to protect the teachers, the ones who help and educate our children, but the ones that are doing a not such a good job, we really don't want to help them. They are not the teachers that we want in our school systems. We want the best. And there are a lot of good talent out there. Currently, the system is last in, first out. And that's a problem because there's a lot of young blood and a lot of teachers that have been around for a long time. Some of them maybe are getting a little stale in their teaching. And obviously, if they're not living up to the performance standards, then it's time to leave. Young teachers are full of energy, and again, it's all about our children, the best for our children, and obviously the teachers have to be protected, but at the same time, our children have to be protected, and that means they have to have the best teachers. And if that means that some teachers, if tenure is going to get involved and prevent our children from getting the best teachers, then it has to be, again, the governor's plan, I believe, is something that we should be looking at.
Thank you. By the way, Mr. Schumacher had a family emergency, had to leave, and he will try to return. That was the gentleman sitting on the end. Now let's get to some nitty-gritty type questions that the community is really concerned about. One of the biggest issues in Lakewood has to do with busing. This question is asked, and we'll start from the middle right here, Mr. Harvey. Go to your left. What percentage of an overall school budget should be allocated to busing? That's number one. Second part of that question, what would you do to hold busing costs down?
Busing is pretty much regulated state as to what you need to bus by law or by statute. But Lakewood does what is called courtesy and or safety busing, which sometimes is necessary too. What percentage of the budget should be allocated to that? I think that we first have to decide how we control the expense. The expense, they have a new consultant, Gus, and I probably can't pronounce his last name, but he's a wonderful consultant. He comes to us from Tom's River, where he did a magnificent job. He's doing a magnificent job here. Now, there has been various plans on how to so significantly reduce the cost of busing, possibly with savings of up to $6 million. And it goes into the effect that there would be tiered busing, 3 different tiers, so you can use the same bus 3 different times. And you have to have a more practical approach. We can't have a bus with 10 students on it delivering those students to a school, and another bus with the next 10 students to the next school, and the same thing for the third. You can't do that efficiently because it's too expensive to do that. What Gus's plan has been, and we need to abolish some of it, is to get into the tier practice and to then consolidate buses, where instead of having 3 buses with 10, you would have 1 bus with 30. Now, it is important for us to keep in mind that the tenets of the Orthodox Jewish religion are that they don't bring boys and girls on the same bus. But I think that there's enough students that we can be aware of that and take care of that, because there are enough girls to go to the girls' schools and there are enough boys to go to the various boys' schools. I think with a $6 million reduction and the fact that that would be such a great savings, I think that that's the place to start. Now, when you formulate a plan like that, you just can't do what they did several years ago and said, this is our plan, like it or not. Now, I think that the principals and the people that run the private schools and public schools have to get together and work as a committee with the administration to say, how can we, all of us stakeholders, save that money? And that's to preserve busing. The objective here is to not just cut / burn. The objective is, how do we do it more efficiently? Where's our return on investment? How can we get it done better? I also believe that Lakewood is going to... Thank you.
Thank you. I think the preeminent concern when you're dealing with the transportation issue is the safety of the students. Lakewood is a very difficult place in which to drive, and it's even more difficult to be a pedestrian in Lakewood. And I think it's almost impossible to be a little kid trying to navigate the streets of Lakewood. Unfortunately, there is a lot of traffic in Lakewood, and it happens that it's at certain rush hour times, which correspond roughly to the same time as the schools are in session. It's essential that busing be provided to the students, both public and private school students. And if the percentage turns out to be 10% of the budget, 12% of the budget, 15% of the budget, whatever it turns out to be, we have to first be concerned that students are not going to be endangering their lives when they're trying to get to school. I think, as Mr. Halvey said, the transportation department, the experts in that field, have to work with the parents and with the private and public school administrators to try to figure out if there are ways of saving money. Maybe it's a simple matter of getting bus companies that can use smaller buses. Maybe it's a matter of consolidating some of the routes, if that would be acceptable in terms of the time that students have to arrive and where they're coming from, and things of that type. But I don't think that this is a question that we just look at the budget amount and say it's too high. This is a question where we have to say, are students going to be crossing busy roads? Are they going to be walking along highways? And we have to make sure that there are no injuries or worse to the students. So if busing costs a little bit more than it does in some neighboring towns, it's going to have to do that.
Thank you. Now, listen. Yes.
Okay. The first question was the percentage allocation. And again, I'm not sure that there is a magic percentage that we can work with. Lakewood presents, as we've all heard, different situations because of safety, because of trying to cross Route 9, Ocean Avenue, anywhere like and I saw you smile on your face. Driving is terrible, walking is even worse. So that becomes difficult. But I do believe that when you're taking a look at busing, in order to hold the cost down, we need to continue to look at the competitive nature of bids going out to hire the transportation companies that are working. I believe last year, the current board made a tremendous inroads into looking at the bidding procedure, hiring companies that were lower in cost and try to obtain savings that way. Now, we also have to make sure that the drivers they're providing are providing the proper care for our children. They're not leaving them on the buses, and they're not driving dangerously. Even though they're the lowest bidder, we have to monitor that situation. We do have to work with the transportation director to make sure that efficient routes are being provided that, again, will help to contain the costs. So I think that, one issue is to continue to look at whatever can be done to lower and contain the costs. We have a professional that was hired as transportation director. He needs to provide the input. He needs to keep searching for and looking to develop better ideas on how to contain the costs and keep it down.
Safety is an issue for the busing. With Lakewood's population growth growing at an enormous rate, busing is always going to be an issue. Always going to be an issue. It's never going to be. It's never going to go away. What do? You try to get with the town to try to create safe walking areas for the kids that live within a certain distance from the school, to make it safe for them to walk. We try to consolidate busing, like I said before, with smaller buses, make the routes more efficient. If you have a couple of schools that are in the same block, maybe those kids can ride on the same bus instead of making multiple stops. So those are some of the things that we look at. We did hire a bus coordinator. He's doing everything possible to try to save money. But if you reach a number, say it's 10%, say it's 20% for this budget, whatever the number is, it's always going to be increased. So there is no, like I said, there is no real magic number. We try to save what we can. Like I said, think with the township, they try to make safe walking areas for the kids, either crossing guards, sidewalks, better lit areas, and enforce the traffic violators, the ones that do speed or don't stop at the stop signs, the ones that go faster than 25 miles an hour. Enforce that. But busing is always going to be an issue, and it's always going to cost.
Our children, safety is our number one priority. And busing is part of education. Again, as we spoke earlier, a child has to be secure. A child has to feel safe. A child has to have a drive to go to school. If they feel they're vulnerable in any way, that's just going to give them a bad feeling about it. That being said, every child that is in any danger whatsoever, safety has to be adhered to. And if any child is in a dangerous area or an area that is a high traffic area, they must be bused. That's very important, whatever the costs are. Obviously, we have to monitor those costs. Like most people were saying, it's important to consolidate the runs, whatever it is. As long as we're not interfering with safety, any option that we have, getting better, putting out more proposals with other bus companies from other towns to come in here and be a little more competitive. But again, the safety is the number one issue. The other concern, I do believe, just from monitoring the situation, the new bus director is doing a phenomenal job. He is trying to do exactly that. The other concern is that it has to be also done with the school administrators. You can't just decide, okay, this is going to be the best way to go. You have to have the school administrators involved as well, because they're the ones actually who have their curriculum based on start times and end times, so they do have to be consulted. I truly believe with the new busing director and everybody getting together, sitting down together, going through the bus routes, coming up with different ideas, we could work together, we could save a lot of money. But one thing is certain, we can't in any way, at any expense, expose our children to any danger. Safety is number one.
Thank you.
Transportation is an issue which is very near and dear to my heart. It's one of the things that got me coming to the Board of Education meetings in the first place. I believe that we have to do whatever we can to keep the costs down. That being said, it might not be popular in this room. I don't believe, when I started running, I made a pledge. What I say in the yeshiva, I'm going to say to the senior community, I'll say to the public school community. I'm going to be frank, I don't believe that busing children from two different schools is a viable solution just because it's of the discipline issues. When you have children from different schools riding on a bus, who's going to be in charge? If the child gets bullied on the bus, who are you going to go to? You'll go to the transportation director. He's going to have to go to the school. He's going to say, no, it wasn't from my school, it was from the other school. I don't think that is a viable solution. Tiered busing, that you can have some schools starting at 8 o'clock, 8:45, 9:15, I do believe that is something we should look at. As far as hazardous routes, I believe we need transparency. There should be a policy, clearly accessible, which routes are considered hazardous, why are they considered hazardous. If it's a question of that there's a certain part of the block that doesn't have a sidewalk and we say the township has to put the sidewalk, maybe the Board of Education should say, we'll pitch in the money. 1 year it might cost us money, but then we could save money on the busing the next year because now it's a safe route because of the sidewalk. We have to look at it, take innovative ways. While we are paying for busing, we should demand accountability. There's contracts that say when the buses have to show up. They have to be there 5 minutes before school starts. They have to be there 10 minutes before school ends to pick up the children. There's clear penalties. They're supposed to be fined $50 a day for any day that they come late. Till today, the last time I spoke to the transportation director was 3 weeks ago. He said, we have no way of knowing when the buses are coming, and therefore we can't assess the penalties. We need to find a way to make sure that we know when the buses are showing up, so that we can assess the penalties. Because first of all, we can use the money, and more importantly, we would rather not have the money, we'd much rather have the buses come on time. We're paying a lot of money for it, and they should be accountable. And just to finish, we need to look at the bids. 80% of the transportation contracts are automatically renewed every year. I have been told that it's to the benefit of the district, because if you would rebid it, the price would be much higher. I find that hard to believe, because then the bus companies would say, we don't want to renew it, let's put it up for a rebid. Bus companies want this price, it must be good for them, and I think we should look at it to see if it would be better for the district to put them out for bid again.
Thank you. Next question, I'll begin with Mr. Tiff. In normal school districts, and in most school districts that I am in the community familiar with, the superintendent is the chief officer and in charge of the entire district. What is your opinion, or what is your take on the relationship with the school superintendent versus the Board of Education attorney?
Good question. Like I said, the superintendent is in charge of the district. She's the CEO of the corporation. I always tell them, listen, so I am not here to tell you what to do. You are the educator. You have the experience. You have the know-how. So whatever ideal that she wants to come up with changes, as long as it's going to not hurt the kids, it's going to be beneficial for everybody. She has my wholehearted support. But she needs to run that by herself, not with input from any outside group, any input from any individual person. It should be a school board decision. You know, she gives her opinion. She talks about it with the people on the board, whether you agree with it or not. She is the only person that has to answer if it fails. Now, if everything goes okay, you know, everybody gets the credit. You don't know how that works. But when things fail, you know, everybody stands back and says, you know, listen, it was her idea. It wasn't my idea. And this is using not fair. I believe that if she's going to run the district, it should be her ideals, you know, with input from the board, is very important. But she should always have the ultimate decision on anything that's going to benefit the education.
The superintendent is pretty much the representative of everybody below her, kind of like a pyramid, and all the teachers and everybody underneath that. And she's the one that actually has to come to the board and give answers and give input to what's happening at all the schools that's under her direction. And obviously all the teachers and administration have to give input back to her so she can feed that back to the board. There has to be a clear level of communication.
Excuse me, let me just stop you. Maybe I need to clarify my question. Okay, my question has to do with the relationship between the school superintendent and the school board attorney. As I said, in most districts that I know of and communities aware of, the superintendent is in charge of the district. The Board of Education hires the board attorney. But unlike in most school districts, there seems to be an issue with who's in charge. So that's my question to all of you. The role between the role of the superintendent versus the role of the Board of Education attorney.
It's simple. The superintendent is in charge of all educational decisions, and she's the one who has to come to the board and give them her professional opinion, because she's a professional in the educational field, as to what the proper procedures should be, and then the board's decision based on her recommendations or unrecommendations what to do. The board attorney should not have a role in any educational field. He's an attorney, and that's his job to protect the school from any legal issues or the like. But when it comes to education, there's one person to look at, and that's the superintendent.
Thank you.
I cannot answer for what goes on in the district office because I'm not there. I do find it interesting that by the board meeting, the meetings are run by the attorney. I think that, I know of there's three meetings which I attend regularly. Council meetings, school board meetings, and Coventry Square meeting where I serve as vice president. The other meetings, township run by the mayor, the Coventry Square run by the president runs the meeting, the school board, the attorney runs the meeting. Interesting. I don't know if that's reflective of what goes on inside the district. Lakewood is an interesting district just because there is a very high percentage of out-of-district placement in relation to other districts that has a lot to do with members of my community, the Orthodox community, we don't, children that don't need special schools, we send to private schools and we pay for ourselves only when we need a school like Shy, or that we send to the public schools to get the out-of-district placement, and therefore there is a large amount of the Board of Education, maybe more than in other districts, which deal with special education, which is the specialty of the school board attorney. That being said, I do believe that again, the superintendent is in charge of the education, the board president is in charge of the board, and they should be the ones running the meeting, not the attorney. What goes on inside the district, if I'm elected, I guess I'll find out, but the superintendent should be the one that's in charge.
Thank you.
I believe we have a very difficult situation in that relationship. The superintendent takes the role of the CEO, or the Chief Executive Officer, as it pertains to education. Directly responsible for any and all programs in this district, how well they perform. And she has the responsibility to carry this educational program through. The attorney is an advisor. In Lakewood Township, we have managed to get ourselves into a position where the president of the board is advocating his responsibility by allowing the attorney to take over all the meetings, make the decisions, call for order, call for everything. Now, this is absolutely wrong, but it goes further than that. Our attorney fills two roles. Not only is attorney, but he's in charge of special education also. And therefore, he's an employee of the system that he's the advising attorney of. I think we've got a severe problem. Now, how do you address that problem? Because I've heard that he is the indispensable person. In business, the axiom was find the indispensable person and fire it, because that's not allowing the other people to do their job. We're going to have to look at this very close. I think the attorney fulfills a very worthwhile job on the board, and he, because he is a member of the administration, stopped suing Lakewood Township, and that's good. And we wonder what would happen if he wasn't part of the administration. Now, that's not a good enough reason to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you, and perhaps a closing statement if you want to elaborate on those issues you met. Next person. Pardon me?
I don't think we got a chance.
No, it's right. Next person. Yes, you.
Okay. Thank you. One of the reasons why there should be an attorney on the Board of Education is to challenge the current Board of Education attorney when he essentially pulls the wool over the eyes of the other members of the board. And that has been going on apparently for a number of years. If you were to look up the definition of conflict of interest, you would see a picture of the current Board of Education attorney right next to that entity. It is legally impossible for the Board of Education attorney to maintain an objective opinion and to deliver professional legal advice when he is also affiliated or associated with the school district as a consultant. He has set himself up not as an employee, but as an independent contractor, consultant, paid for by one of the other vendors, and so forth. It's an interlocking type of relationship that is wholly improper, completely inappropriate, and is entirely detrimental to the proper relationship between the superintendent and the board and the attorney. One of the things that should be considered is replacing the current Board of Education attorney with someone in-house who could probably deliver services more loyally and faithfully to the board, while at the same time realizing that he was subservient to the board. He could probably deliver proper advice to the superintendent and to the other members of the administration without having to be concerned about his own role in the administration. I think that it is absolutely essential that the Board of Education attorney, whether he's in-house or under the current arrangement as someone who is appointed, he needs to be put in his place. And that has not been done by the current board.
Thank you.
The role of the board attorney should be gather support. The person should render legal opinions to both the board itself and the superintendent regarding the education of the school and the workings of the Board of Education in terms of how it's abiding the law. I believe it is up to the Board of Education to set that policy and ensure that the attorney is supporting the superintendent and not leading the superintendent. I believe that is your point.
Thank you. Since all of you spoke on that issue, one question regarding salaries. Are you, as candidates, aware of administrative salaries in the district? Are you aware of the school board attorney's salary? School board attorney's salary? If so, what do you think it may be, and what do you think it should be? We'll start on the end down here, sir. Thank you.
It's all public information. The superintendent is doing pretty nicely. So the administrator, her assistant, as well, especially in an economy like this, people would really, let's put it this way. To make that kind of salary in the private sector, you got to do a really damn good job. And if you're not doing a damn good job, then your salary has to, you just got to live up to that salary. They're not living up to that salary. I would say the same thing about the board attorney or some of the other higher paid people in the administration. They're getting paid top-notch salaries. I think it's anybody that's getting that kind of salary has to live up to that salary. The salaries are, I believe, higher than others in this state, and we have to demand better accountability and better education for those salaries. And if it's built into a salary, there has to be benchmarks. If the school district approves, we'll give you a bonus. If the school district doesn't approve, we have to take off some of your salary.
Thank you.
The question's right. What the board attorney makes, or what any public employee makes, is public knowledge. Do they make too much money? Yes, they do. They some of them do.
Let me clarify, because I don't want to question anybody's salary. What I'm specifically talking about is the board attorney.
Okay.
Let me just clarify what I mean. I'm talking about the board attorney. Okay, I don't question administrative salaries and teacher salaries. I'm questioning the salary of the Board of Education attorney. I'm asking you if you know what it is, and do you think it's too high, and how do you plan to curtail it?
Well, do I think it's too high? Yes, I think it's too high. What can I do to grow the plan? Anytime that his contract's up for negotiations, it needs to be negotiated to figure out, what is going to raise for an attorney in his position. That I don't know. What the going rate is. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what they charge by the hour. I have to look at, whenever the board attorney is called, does that clock start as far as him being paid? Every meeting that I've been to, the board attorney is always there, even if it doesn't require a board attorney. So what we can look at is to look at how he's paid, what he's getting paid, and exactly who on the board is authorized to put him in effect as far as, when we call him for something. How does that work? Right. There is no, I haven't seen it in any type of job description as far as his duties go. Everybody has responsibility, everybody has job duties. We need to find out exactly what those job responsibilities are, what those duties entail as far as the board goes.
Thank you.
I think we have to separate his being a lawyer and possibly other forms of income that he has. We're just talking about his legal status. I believe he gets paid hourly. I'm not sure if he's on a retainer. I'm not on the current board, so I don't know the exact nature of his contract. But the attorney is paid hourly, quite high. I apologize to Mr. Larry here, but I do believe that when I used the planning board attorney to fight our community's, some development around our community, it was like $250 an hour or $300 an hour, I forget. What's the going rate? That's great. And that gets swallowed up quite quick. You get it up as high as you can. But it's really a function of the number of suits that are being, how the Board of Education is being sued by the parents, how many, the number of hours that are involved, those kinds of things. If you're trying to get rid of a tenured teacher, you have legal costs there. So that's really a variable that you can't control. Any attorney is going to run up that fee. Possibly, like we do when we go out for busing, possibly we should try to negotiate a better rate, some retainer, some rate, try to keep those costs under control. But the costs are variable, get out of the control of the lawyer per se, because it depends upon who's suing and the advice that he's being asked for and how many board meeting hours, those kinds of things. So, do I think it's high? Yes. Do I think it's controllable? Yes. Do I know how? No.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do happen to have the printout which shows what that individual's salary is as coordinator and supervisor for non-public special education, as it's called, which is $122,000. That's not what he receives as Board of Education attorney. That's not on his printout because of the way in which the budget is structured. So he's receiving $122,000 as salary for the part-time consultant job, and he's additionally receiving something that's, I believe, several times that amount for the part-time job of Board of Education attorney. As I indicated earlier, it would be a very good idea for the board to explore the possibility of having an in-house attorney, someone who would devote his or her full time to the Lakewood Township Board of Education, and would not have other jobs, not have private clients, and not have any other job within the school system. One job for one person. I am also strongly in favor of the governor's salary cap for school administrators applying to people such as the Board of Education attorney. No one needs to be earning more than the governor is earning. The governor is responsible for 8 million people in the state. Why should a Board of Education attorney who is responsible for what goes on in 6 schools, why should he be making several times what the governor is making? And the governor's an attorney also. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's being paid too much. What is the total? It's hard for me to tell. But 3 years ago, I did an OPRA request to find out that information. I went to the school district and an open records request because it's public information. My first request was to determine how many jobs that this attorney had in the district. My second request was to tell me all benefits, all payments for the attorney himself and or his law firm and or associates. What I received was about a half a piece of paper that said that some issues were undetermined and I hadn't correctly defined the detail level needed to do the research. So I refined my request And I got a ton of paper that just, in my opinion, was irrelevant because you just couldn't go through that much with, I was looking for specifics about this one individual, not every salary for the school district, things like that. And then I got a letter from the law firm asking me why I was inquiring about this, and a second letter that was more detailed. And after my spouse and I had a discussion, she assured me I was going to have a housing problem if I didn't walk away from this. So I did. I did not get final information. I decided it was not in my interest as an individual, not an attorney, just an individual, seeking information that is public information, but not readily available. Even though we have the sunshine law that says that I was entitled to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know he's getting paid a lot of money. I even know that at one point this year, they had the board had to, there was a item on the agenda that we have to continue to pay him because it looks like they ran out of money that they had allocated to pay him, and they needed to put aside more money to pay him. So we are paying a lot of money. Legal advice doesn't come cheap, and it is important that we're getting the best legal advice. It is also important that the district isn't involved in unnecessary litigation. If there are items that, there are things that the district does that are constantly going through litigation, which requires an attorney, and then we're losing anyways, then we should rethink what we're doing, that we don't need the attorney. We shouldn't do it and say, okay, doesn't matter, we'll go to court, but then we'll have to pay an attorney anyways, and then we'll lose anyways. And I know that was something that was going on many years ago. I don't know if it's still going on today. I hope that everything that we're going to court, we're winning, and then, you know, if it's costing us $1 million in legal fees, but we're saving $15 million in fees that we would have to pay otherwise because we would lose in court, then we're getting a good bang for our buck. But it is something which has to be investigated, how we are proceeding and why we are racking up legal bills, and maybe we have to act differently so that the legal bills should be less, and maybe we have to look, is he the best lawyer around for the best bang for the buck? If he is the best bang for the buck, then as high as the legal fees are, then we have no choice. We should pay what we need to get the best advice we can. But if it's not, we have to look to cut down the cost.
Thank you. It is 9 o'clock. So we're going to ask each of you to take 1 minute and do a closing statement. Just 1 minute for closing statement. We're going to start with this end over here, and let's go down and make a closing statement, please. Thank you.
In closing, again, the theme is the children, the best for the children, the safety of the children. That is priority number 1. Priority number 2 is going to be the teachers. We have to support the teachers because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are supporting our children. But that can't come at the expense of the children. All the items mentioned as far as busing and other things are safety related. Anything that's safety related has to be priority number 1. Children, priority number 1. We want to be able to up the scores. If we have different competition coming to town, that may help as well bring up the scores, bring up the level of quality education that we all deserve. Again, school choice is something that's very, very, very near and dear to everybody. Every child is different, not necessarily is every child fit into one particular school. If there's choice, that's very healthy. Competition, very healthy. We want to be able to give, again, the best education we can. We have a lot of money that we're giving here. The budget's around $140 million. We can do a lot of good things with that money. We're definitely not getting the best bang for our buck today. We have to get in there, go ahead and see exactly where our money is being spent and spend it much wiser. More money is not necessarily going to help us, but if we take the money that we currently have and use it wisely, we are going to get a better education for our children. Our kids are going to do better. They're going to have an interest to come to school. There's not going to be any issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and giving us this opportunity to speak to everybody about school system. I believe in the public school system. I'm a product of the public school system. We need to support the public school system. In my case, I need to get a firm standing on the school board. I was on, I was off, I was back on, now I'm back on again. Hopefully, if I get elected to a 3-year term, I will be able to look into things a little more deeply, to find out exactly what's going on, to find out exactly, why the dropout rate is so high, why are the test scores so low, why are these schools failing, and hold people accountable for their positions. There's a lot of administrators in this district, people that are in charge of certain departments, the math department, the science department, the English department. Those people need to be held accountable for the failing test scores. They're making top dollar. Let's hold them responsible for what's going on. If there's something that the school district needs as far as professional development, they need to come to the administration, the superintendent, and say, listen, we think that this will work. We need to send people out to get trained, and then come back and bring it to everybody else in the district to see if it's going to work. If you don't try it, you'll never know. I'm a supporter of the teachers. I know a lot of teachers here, and I'm involved in the school system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming and thank you for having us. I do believe that if I'm elected to the board, I can work to try and attack all these issues that we've identified and we've just scratched the surface tonight, to try, importantly, to balance the important issues of budget versus education, quality of education, the amount of education that our kids are receiving. It is a balancing act. If we don't watch the budget and we make things too expensive, nobody's going to be able to afford to live in this town. And then there won't be any kids to go to school, so we won't have to worry about it. But being that we do have to bring up the level of education. We do have to find ways to better use our money. And to have it work, we need to better communicate with both the Board of Education and the administration, with the community. We need community input into how we're doing, what the community would like to see done. Doesn't mean everything's going to get done, but you do need that kind of input. And as a board member, I will want to make those things happen and to try and bring back professionalism to the board, which I think if you attend the board meetings, you see there's lacking there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are critical problems with the school district. The students are leaving before graduation. The teachers are leaving rather than making a career of the Lakewood Township School District. And even as recently as last night, the business administrator is leaving after a tenure of only a few weeks. These are symptomatic